How you guys doing? Welcome to Tacticon Armament. My name is Jake. I'm the owner of Tacticon Armament. Today we are going to be covering the 3X Magnifier. So the Falcon V1 3X Magnifier was built to work with all of our red dot optics, the Predator line, the Predator V1, the V2, and the V3. It's going to come in a black box like this, nice and sleek. Inside you'll get the magnifier itself. We'll also have a mount that it comes with. This is a flip to side mount. We'll get into that in a little bit. You'll get your registration card. This registration card will allow you to go onto Tacticon.com and register the lifetime warranty. I highly recommend doing that if you didn't buy it from Tacticon.com directly. You'll also be privy to some pretty significant discounts as well. We have a lens cloth in here to clean the lenses of the magnifier with. We will also have instructions for you to be able to thoroughly follow the instructions and be able to center your dot as well as mount the product itself to your firearm. One of the last things we include are the screws, the mounting screws in here, as well as the shim. This shim will allow you to adjust the elevation of your 3X magnifier in the event that it doesn't go as high as your optic that is sitting on top of your Picatinny rail. So different optics have different elevations. This shim will allow you to actually align your 3X magnifier to the red dot optic. All right, so talking about the product itself, this is the actual magnifier without it mounted on the Picatinny rail mount. On the back of the magnifier, you're gonna see a 30mm viewing diameter, same as the front of the magnifier, 30mm viewing diameter on the lens. On the top, you are going to have the elevation adjustments and the windage adjustments on the side. This isn't to zero the red dot, this is simply to line up the red dot in the center of your magnifier. Prior to lining the red dot up to the center of the magnifier, what you're going to want to do is zero your red dot. Make sure that that's in good position with the firearm, and then you can go ahead and mount your magnifier and center that dot in the center of this magnifier. You are going to have screws included, as mentioned before, as well as a shim included. If you do need a higher elevation from your magnifier off the rail, you'll need to install the shim that's included with the product. The shim will fit directly on top here, and then you will essentially take the mount and put the mount in between the shim and the magnifier, and that'll give it a few millimeters of elevation to line up with whatever optic that you have on your firearm. 2 of our 3 optics do not require the shim, and 1 of our optics does require the shim. Just depends on which one you get. Also, we include 2 different lengths of screws. The smaller set of screws obviously will be if you're mounting the mount to the magnifier without the shim. The longer set of screws will be if you're mounting the mount to the magnifier with the shim. So now I'm going to mount the magnifier to the actual rail mount, but I'm not going to use the shim. Again, if you're going to use the shim, go ahead and place that right here and use the long screws. I'm just going to mount it because I'm using it with the Predator V3 in this particular video. I'm going to mount it without the shim. It's an ambidextrous magnifier. So if you needed to, and you're a left-handed individual, left-handed shooter, meaning that obviously your trigger finger is going to be on the left side, you may want to be able to flip your mount with your right hand, and all you have to do is just reverse the mount to the right side. So if you reverse the mount over to the right side, you'll be able to flip it over to the right side instead of the left. It's an ambidextrous mount. Right now I'm right-handed, so I'm going to mount it as a right-handed shooter. So my flip to side button, it's going to be on the left side of the rail. So I'm going to go ahead and put the mount to the magnifier, ensuring that my adjustable focus is on the right side of this flip to side button. So this is your adjustable focus right here. Flip to side button's on the left. I'm going to use the short screws. I'm going to get this out of the way real quick by flipping it to the side, and I'll install the short screws. You're going to need a Phillips head screwdriver to do this. So I'll go ahead and mount this here, put this here, screw them in. And you're set. All right, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about mounting the magnifier on top of the pick rail with your optic. Weapons on safe, it's been cleared. And we're going to go ahead and grab the 3X magnifier. I don't know if I mentioned Predator V3. This is the 2MOA red dot optic. We do not need a shim mount for this, so I'm going to mount this directly onto the rail by loosening up this rail mount here. And once I get it into place, I'm going to get it as close as I possibly can to the optic. We've had a couple customers mount these a little too far away from the optic itself, and it's just not nearly as effective. So try to get this, try to get the magnifier as far back on your rail as you can, and also get it as close to the optic as you can. So these two should be next to each other, and get this magnifier as far back on the rail that you can. There's about 2.5 inches of eye relief on here, so you don't need to bring it all the way back into your eye. It's a quick way to get a black eye if your firearm has any recoil. But you get it far back enough to where you can keep your eye about 2 to 2.5 inches away from it, so you can really exercise that eye relief. And then, so once you get it mounted to the rail, you'll hand tighten it as much as possible, kind of like our Predator V1. You're gonna want this thing to be mounted as snug as possible on the rail. If you can't get it as tight as you'd really like it with your hand, a couple different options. You could use a 12mm socket wrench, which is right here, or you can take an Allen key or anything kind of long and skinny, if you got it, and run it through this hole and use it as a little bit of leverage to get this tight. So here I've got a 3mm Allen. I'll just run it through this hole in the socket, and you can kind of crank it onto the rail. Don't over tighten it, as it is aluminum and it will strip. Once you get this thing tightened on here, you'll see that it lines up really nice with our optic. Now you'll have to center the dot. So as I mentioned before, go ahead and zero your optic, and then use this flathead screw right here. No, that is not a flathead. Flathead screw right here to center your dot. And this will be for the elevation. And this will be for the windage. Oftentimes, this doesn't work like a normal elevation and windage would with a red dot optic. You'll have to move these two in conjunction with one another to kind of get it zeroed. So it's almost like the best example would be an Etch-a-Sketch, where you're moving two of them to kind of get them diagonally. Sometimes you may have to move the elevation and the windage to get it to move diagonally down to the middle so that you can center your red dot inside of the center of the magnifier. Get a view from the back side here. You can actually take your left hand, depress this button, and flip it to the side, and then you'll have full access to the red dot without it being magnified. If you want a magnified view, you simply press that button again, flip it back over. So this thing locks into place whether it's flipped on top of the rail or whether it's flipped to the side. Again, if you're a right-handed or if you're a left-handed shooter, you'll just take the mount and flip the mount itself and then remount it to the magnifier, and you'll be able to flip it off to the right since you're a left-handed shooter. If the mount itself is loose, so if you get your magnifier onto the mount and you find that this one doesn't, but if you find that it wiggles around at all, on the back side of this, there's a couple little Allen keys here. So these Allen bolts right here, these hex bolts, will take a 3mm hex, and you could tighten these guys down, and it'll tighten, it'll basically tighten the magnifier up to the mount so that it won't wobble around on you. If you find that your view is a little bit blurry, you can adjust this focus ring right here, as with any other magnified optic, and this will bring your sight picture back into focus for you. All right, so that completes the video for the Tacticon Falcon V1 magnifier, the 3X magnifier. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can go to tacticon.com. That's the best place to find us. We've got our phone number on there. We've got our email on there. You can chat with us on Facebook Messenger. You can also find us on Instagram as well. So until then, shoot straight, and we'll talk to you soon.